Hello, my name is Jill Alexi. I am an alumna of the Angelicum, and I am now currently outside my parents' home in Charlotte, North Carolina. And being here over the course of the pandemic year, I have begun a series of virtual visits where I take my past experiences in on-site and experiential education at the sites of great sacred and spiritual beauty in Rome and across Europe. And I've tried to share these experiences now with people online through virtual visits and online lectures. And so today you'll see a few clips from some of my lectures that feature the works of Beato Angelico, Fra Angelico. And I wanted to share with you these examples because to me, there's no greater example than Fra Angelico of how we can share a proper catechesis and how we can introduce fundamental concepts in theology, philosophy, and history to those who might be new to these fields. Same thing is true if I too have an opportunity to go up to Florence and take students or leaders or pilgrims or tourists to my personally favorite site in all of Florence, which is the Convento San Marco. So I hope that you're able to enjoy these small clips, and I hope that the conversation of how we might better use these treasures in order to continue to surprise people by faith through the gifts of visual theology, experiential philosophy, living history, can really be an asset not only to ourselves in our vocations to preach and to teach and to bless, but also an inspiration to all those whom we seek to serve.
To begin with, in Florence, we're going to visit the Convent of San Marco. This is a former Dominican convent, and Dominicans, who along with other mendicants like the Franciscans, were really at the forefront of this modern age, going out to teach, to preach, and to bless. And one of their fellow Dominicans, Fra Angelico, a friar, painted an image of Mary in the Annunciation. Now, it's the Annunciation because Jesus is announced in Mary's womb by the angel of the Lord. He was not conceived. Because remember from our 1,000 years of antiquity, Jesus is always and everywhere God, consubstantial with the Father. So we need to hang on to that hard-fought orthodoxy, but we can show it in this new and modern way. Now, the friars, when they were returning from their day of work or studying, when they would go upstairs to their cells to retire, you go up this staircase and around the corner through the doors, this image is like a beacon that cries out to you. Now, the Dominicans are actually famous for having invented the rosary. That's a very simplistic thing to say. They didn't invent it as such, but they did develop the rosary. It is what they wear as their cincture, their belt, on their habit, and they constantly promote the rosary. And so as they go up the stairs, you can imagine them praying the rosary and looking at this image. Now let's try to look at it more up close. And you can see how the angel of the Lord is kneeling down before Mary. But what makes this look so modern? Well, it's modern because first of all, they're in a real place. It looks to you kind of like the cenacle, that upper room, the room of the Last Supper, looked at the beginning of our little pilgrimage. So this stuff really happened, and it happened in a real place. And Fra Angelico is using the best of mathematical and architectural learning at the time in order to render the perfect perspective in this space. In fact, if you look all the way back, you can see a tiny little window that continues to look out to the garden. So the realness of this is being exaggerated. Also, you can see that they are, or the angel, just outside where the angel is, a very, very kind of lush lawn. Well, that's filled with all of the symbols of flourishing and lushness that we saw in Ravenna, or that filled all the tiny little details of the stained glass in Chartres. So there is still this ancient idea of it's the flourishing of heaven that we're made for, that's coming to envelop us all. You can also see that Mary is in blue. So we're still having this idea, it's being subtly communicated that she's Queen of Heaven. But now there's a few changes. First of all, look at how Mary's seated. She's like very much a full body. So she doesn't look like, a weird woman in those icons. She looks like a real human young woman, by the way. Also, she doesn't have Jesus on her lap. Instead, she's embracing her womb. And if you look at the angel's gaze, the angel's actually not looking at Mary. It's looking at and bowing down to the womb. So this reminds us that we never worship Mary. We worship Jesus. It's just that she is the mother of God, the Theotokos. So even that part is here. And then finally, I like this little detail of I'm sorry, of the stool that she's sitting on. It's very, very humble. And this is the kind of stool that the friars would have sat on in their convent. So it just makes all of these things kind of mirror your own life. It looks very natural to you, but the spirituality and the theology that's been there for 1,000 years is still there. So you do start to swing the pendulum back to start to think about the realness, the humanity of our sacred stories, but you don't jettison the mystery and the majesty in order to do that. You can just add on this deeper layer.